Okay, this is the Hangman Presentation by Ricky Cashin. This is the code here that we've written in Kyle. So we start off here with the top of the code. These are our function declarations here. Move on down here. These are the pins, where the pins are defined for the keypad and the 8051. These are our variable declarations here. So we move down into the main program here. Basically this piece of code here is storing the character that's pressed in an array called store, and it will be stored if X or enter is pressed. We're using the X button as enter. So what we're doing here basically is that we're saying initialize the LCD and make the input and output pins as required. Then we go into this while loop here. So we're saying while enter is not pressed, in other words, always loop looking for a key to get a pressed key. If there is a key pressed, we want to store that key in a variable called key. And then this if statement here then is saying that if enter is pressed, and within that if statement we have another if statement here. If the temp key is not empty but into an array called store, so basically then whatever key is pressed and enter is pressed, it will store it in this array called store here. We're going to increment the index, and then we're going to reset temp key, and we're going to reset key while incrementing the location on the LCD at the same time. So the next piece of code here, basically what this piece of code is doing here, we're resetting key then back to nothing, because this character represents nothing. So what we're saying is there's no key being pressed. So then what we're going to do is we're going to move to the second line of the LCD, and we're going to call the write command function, and then we're going to bring the cursor back to the start of the second line. That's what write command 0/80 means. And then we're going to go into this for loop here with a counter called J, and what that's going to do is it's going to go through the index of the array called store, and whatever character, the amount of characters that's in the array called store, it will put an underscore for each one of those on the second line. So then the next piece of code we're in here, we're going to a while loop. So what we're saying here is that if we're going to have 7 attempts, so while attempts is less than 7, what we're saying is we're going to call the get key function, and then within that while loop then we are going to use a for loop here with a counter called J, and what we're saying is if key is equal to X, in other words, if the enter button is pressed after the key is pressed, and if temp key is not empty, and if the key that's pressed is a character that's in the array called store and use is equal to 0, well then we're going to write that character in the same position as it was in the array on the second line. Okay, and then any guess character that will be guessed by the second player will be stored in an array called guess. We're going to increment the guess index, and we're going to increment the correct index, and we're also going to say then that we're going to say that we're going to say right is equal to 1, which is a Boolean expression to say that it's true. Okay. Then we're going to the next piece of code here. What we're saying here is going to another for loop here. So we're saying if the key that's pressed and it's entered into the variable called temp key, if that's equal to the guess index, we're going to increment the used variable. As it says here, if letter is guessed already being used, do nothing. So if the correct variable is equal to the index, we're going to break out of the while loop. So we're saying attempts is equal to 8, so that breaks out of the while loop. Else, if count 2 is equal to 1 and use is equal to 0, we're going to skip the first time round while the while loop. And if the letter hasn't been guessed already, then we're going to say the used attempts is equal to 0. So we're going to reset the key back to 0, and we're going to reset the temp key. And if the right variable is true, well, then we're going to leave the attempts. We're going to say attempts is equal to attempts. We're not going to touch attempts. Else, if correct is equal to index, we're going to break out of the while loop as well. Okay. Else, if attempts is equal to 1, well, then we're going to write this section of the part of the hangman. Okay. If attempts is equal to 2, we're going to write the head of the man that's being hanged. If attempts is equal to 3, we're going to write this piece of the gallows here. If attempts is equal to 4, well, then we're going to write this here. And if attempts is equal to 5, we're going to do this. Attempts is 6, we're going to do this. Okay. And then we're saying if correct is equal to index. In other words, if the variable called correct is actually equal to the characters that the first player put in the first word, but then we're going to print uwin on the LCD. As we can see here, we have all the different characters of uwin for each part of the LCD that we want to write it in. Else, then obviously the player loses, so we're going to write you lose here on each part of the LCD for each character of you lose. Okay, this here is a for loop saying for the count j, and we have the index there, and what we're saying is if the player loses, we're going to write whatever characters in the store j. In other words, whatever word the first player puts in, we're going to write it beside you lose. Okay, and then we're on to the function to get input characters. In other words, whatever key is pressed on the keypad, which will be displayed on the LCD. Basically what's happening here is we have 3 character variables, 1, 2 and 3, and what we're saying here is we're using a count variable as well, 0, 1 and 2. If count's less than 2, we're initializing the write command function. In other words, the address 2 line would be for player 2. Else write command address, again count is equal to 0, so we're resetting to 0. In other words, if we're resetting C, A, B, the first button on the keypad will be for A, B, C. And so then also in that function, then we're saying if count is equal to 0, we're going to display the first key. If count is 1, the second key, and if count is 2, the third key. In other words, for the first button, it'll either be an A, a B, or a C. So these basically are the other functions for the LCD. We have the initializing the delay function, CCT-INIT function. We have the write data function, which is for the data transfer between the keypad, the 8051 and the LCD. And we have the write command function, and we have the function to initialize the LCD. And then basically this is the function for reading in the switches, whatever, in other words, whatever key is pressed on the keypad. So if we press row 0 and C1. If row A is 0 and C1 is 0, which would be the top left hand corner. In other words, we're going to call the get input char function, and as we can see here, A, B or C will be displayed, and so forth then for the rest of the keypads that we want to use. And that's basically, there's the function that we're calling to get the key initially. So that's basically the code. So if we go into the ISA simulation, see here we have the AT89C51 microprocessor, we have keypad, we have the labels here of each key on the keypad that we're going to use. So the X is the enter, and so if we run it, okay, so just say we want to put in my name. The first player is going to put in my name. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, enter. 1, 2, 3, enter. 3, enter. Enter, enter, and enter again. And now we see that we have the underscores written on the LCD for each character that's in the word. So the second player comes in then, and he's going to try and guess what player 1 has put into the LCD. So let's just say we press A, enter. So we know the second player's first guess is not right. E. So we see here that the head of the man that's being hanged is being displayed, so E is not right. So just say we put in R. So now we know that R is the first letter in the first player's word. Okay, so I. So now we know that I is in it. Okay. A. Nope, A is not in it. C. C is in it. So now another guess. K. So K is in it. A Z. Nope, a Z is not in it. P. Nope, P is not in it. Okay, I will try Y. Y is in it. So Ricky was the word, and we see here we guessed the word within the attempts that we were allowed, so we got win. So reset again. Okay, and we put in another word. We say cash in. 2, 3. Enter. 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 H. Enter. 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 So now we press enter again. So now we see we have the underscores again for each letter in the first player's word. So the second player comes in and he starts guessing. So he guesses A. A is in it. D. Nope, D is not in it. C. C is in it. P. Nope, P is not in it. H. H is in it. G. Nope, G is not in it. Z. Nope, Z is not in it. Y. Nope, Y is not in it either. W. Nope, W is not in it. Okay, L. L is not in it either. So we have all our guesses used up. So we see here that the player lost, you lose, and the word that was initially put in by player 1 is displayed beside it. So that's it. Thank you.